Please welcome to the stage, Chris Paul.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Listen, I'm gonna just jump right into it, Chris, because everybody wants to know. You are going to be an unrestricted free agent officially July 1st. Yeah, that's right. I'm putting you on the hot seat right from the beginning. We ain't no warm up or nothing. No softball question, anything. So what's the move? What's the plan?
I honestly don't know. Seriously, I don't. It's actually a weird place to be in because for my entire career, I've pretty much always known. I mean, last summer I was an unrestricted free agent too, but for most of my career, I've always had an idea of where I was going to play the next year, but no clue.
No clue. Okay, well, let's start with the most basic question. So the plan is to play.
The plan is to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, many people are quite aware of the fact that you just happen to be really good friends with LeBron James. The Lakers maybe could need a point guard. I know they got Luka, but I'm just saying, you live in Los Angeles. I'm connecting some dots here.
I do. My wife and my kids are in LA, and I mean, I say this just about every time I talk, but the past 6 seasons, I've played in, where I was in Oklahoma first, then Phoenix for 3 years, Golden State for a year, and then San Antonio last year. My wife and my kids have been in LA all 6 of those years. So that's tough. I love to play basketball, but I love my kids and my family more. So that is going to weigh a huge part on my decision on what happens next year.
Paging Rob Pelinka, paging Rob Pelinka. That being said, I mean, I think it's fair to say that even though you are playing at a high level, that you're in the twilight of your NBA career.
Yeah.
So how much longer do you intend to play?
At the most, a year. You know, I just finished my 20th season, which is a blessing in itself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been in the NBA for more than half of my life, you know, which is a blessing, but it's definitely these years you do not get back with your kids, with your family. I'm born and raised in North Carolina, so my granny, who watches every single game that I play every single night, those moments, I just don't get to see her and hug her along with all my uncles and aunts as much as I love to.
Okay, at most a year.
Yeah, straight
at
up.
Most a year,
I ain't
all right.
gonna lie to you.
Not gonna hold you to it, don't worry about it, if it winds up being longer. But surely though, when you look and see that some of your peers have retired, you see D Wade is retired, Carmelo's already retired, LeBron, don't know how much longer he will play, but looking around and you see guys that you played with, you know, having left the game, and young people, you were telling me the story backstage about how you knew Jalen Brunson, and he plays for the Knicks when he was in middle school, and now he's one of the, the league's top players. Do you think, like, what happened to time?
Yeah, I honestly think about that a lot. You know, a lot of times when you're in it, I'm so competitive, right? I have a grassroots AAU basketball program out of North Carolina, right? Anybody in here know what AAU basketball is? Yeah. So I have my own program. Me and my older brother, we grew up playing since we were kids. We were in those vans, 12-hour rides and all that stuff. So as soon as I got to the NBA, I started my own program. I have 13 of my kids that came out of my program that play in the NBA right now, right? That I have seen since they were 10 years old, 14, 15 years old. But when we step on the court, that's out the window. You know what I mean? We got to get to it. But it is a privilege to still be able to play and to still be able to impact their lives.
A lot of athletes, I'm sure you've run across this throughout the course of your career, they don't start thinking about what they want to do when their career is over until after their career is already over. And it seems like you have clearly been intentional about thinking about what your next pivot is, and that seems to be film and television production. So give me the origin story about how ODIP Entertainment came about.
Right, so what happened was, and the reason why I wanted to get involved in film and TV was I'm a consumer, right? I'm a consumer. I tell you, any former athlete or any athlete that you talk to, there's actually a lot of idle time. Right, a lot of idle time. On a game day, you wake up, you go to shoot around. Some teams in the NBA don't even do shoot around now, but you get up and you go work out and train, and then the game is later in the evening. So when I got into the NBA, I started watching TV shows. I watch everything. I mean, I would tell you some of my aliases. All my aliases are from TV shows. But I remember me and my brother being in Oklahoma my first 2 years, we watched The Wire. And so being a consumer and being a creative, I saw an opportunity. It was like, man, I watched it with a totally different lens. And I said I wanted to get involved in film and TV.
So where did the name ODIP come from?
Man, so I watch movies, I watch everything. So I felt like "Oh Dip" would be a lot better for my parents than "Oh shit," right? And I say it, any of y'all in here seen the movie Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, right? So I want to say me and my brother caught the edited version on BET, right? So there's a point in that movie when Mike Epps, he says, "Oh shit, the Negro Olympics," right? Before the families fight or whatever. So I think they said "Oh Dip" on that, right? So since that movie came out, me, my brother, and our homies, every time something happened, we always say, "Oh, Dip." And if anybody in here has a company or anything that they started, one of the hardest things to come up with is a name, right? You can have all these ideas and whatnot, and then somebody be like, "What you gonna name it?" You'd be like, "Oh, hell, I do not know." But I don't know why that automatically came to mind when me and my brother talked about it, but "Oh, Dip" is something that our friends, my homies, like, me and Russell Westbrook are really good friends, and something will happen or whatnot in the game, and he'll text me, he'll say, "Oh, Dip." You know what I mean? So anybody who knows us knows that that's what we say.
I mean, CP3 Productions, that never crossed your mind? No? Okay.
No, and you know what? It's interesting you say that because I think there is a time and place for that name recognition, but I think the production company is bigger than just me. Right? And I think when we show something or tell someone's story, that doesn't need to be what you see, right? CP3, when I hear that, a lot of times I think basketball, you know, and I say this all day long that us athletes are way more complex than just that. So I'm glad that you don't see CP3 when you see ODIP.
You mentioned that part of your motivation in starting ODIP was what you saw as a consumer. So as a consumer, as you were thinking about starting your own film and television production entity, what did you notice was missing from, based off what you were consuming?
Yeah, what's interesting is I wanted to be able to tell stories like in the Black and brown communities, right? Not just about sport. Like I'm big into comedy. I like all types of things. Stories of entrepreneurship, whatever it may be. And at ODIP, I tell you, what's really cool is that we're not like just based on IP, right? It's not just from a book or something like that. We're big into writers. We're big into trying to elevate their voices and hear their stories because you can learn so much. I've learned so much in this space, right? Obviously, I train and I play basketball, but I always say basketball is what I do, is not who I am, right? So we've told stories of a lacrosse team. I didn't play lacrosse growing up, didn't know nothing about lacrosse, but we told a story that was very inspiring about a team. We're doing a story right now about cricket, right? About cricket. I'm actually part owner of a cricket team, the Rajasthan Royals, over in India, right? So there's a lot of storytelling and a lot of different things that you wouldn't know that this guy plays the piano, this guy does this thing. And I tell you what really got me going into all of this was kind of the commercials that I used to do for State Farm, right? Because
Cliff Paul, is that?
Shooting those commercials year in and year out was something that was new for me. I think the first commercial we shot, was 2011, 2012, right? So it's been 13 years of those commercials, and people in here that know production is tough. And so I think I've always paid attention to all the details. And so during those commercial shoots or whatnot, I was the talent. But as I was the talent, I was paying attention to everyone. The first AD, I was paying attention to the client. I was paying attention. And anybody in here ever been the talent? Yeah, some of y'all been the talent. I'm gonna tell you right now, my biggest pet peeve is when they want you to change something and the people come and tell the person who's standing right in front of you, they like, we just really want him to put his right hand up. And I'm like, I can hear you. just tell me. You standing right there. You can tell, you tell me. But in that, it really got me intrigued into being able to tell these stories. And I tell you, I look at film, I look at shows, I look at everything now from a producing standpoint, right? Any of y'all in here seen Sinners?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you seen Sinners, so what was it, Smoke and Stack? So I went into the movie theater, and when I'm watching it, and I tell you, because when I had to be Chris and I had to be Cliff, like I had to have a mustache one day, then the next day I didn't, and I had to be in the same spot or whatnot. So I actually, I mean, it wasn't Ryan shooting it. Don't get it twisted. But
Saying you could relate to Michael B.
I
Jordan.
could, yeah, I'm not him by no means, but I've had to do something similar to that.
You know, you talked a second ago about your friendship with Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, Carmelo, I think Kevin Durant, a lot of your basketball peers, a lot of athletes, period, now have production companies and are getting into film and television. Why do you think the film and television space is appealing to athletes?
That is a great question, and I'll tell you exactly why it's very appealing to athletes. When I was leaving the Los Angeles Clippers to go to the Houston Rockets, that was the first time my production company did anything, and I'll tell you how it came to be. We ended up telling a story called Chapter 3, and anybody in here who watches networks, you watch TVs, everything pops up on your phone, every talking head now is gossiping, this is what he gonna do, this is what he gonna do, then they gonna tell you why he did it. I said, I wanna tell my own story. But the way it happened, I love pictures. I love documenting things because I feel like I've been blessed to live this crazy life where I'm traveling, and the only way that I can remember things is pictures. So I wanted to remember how I ended up making my decision on if I was gonna stay with the Clippers or if I was gonna leave. So a good friend of mine, Jay-Z, right? He was actually in the...
I love how you casually just, a good friend of mine, you might have heard of him,
yeah,
Jay-Z.
right. We in the same fantasy league or whatever, so
Okay, I have many follow-up questions with that, but go ahead.
Look, but luckily over my career, he's been somebody that I could call, lean on, and talk to about things, right? So Jay was actually, at the time, making his album 444. So I would go over to the studio all the time. This is when I'm in LA, and I would just sit in the studio and watch him. So I hit Jay one day, and I was like, Jay, man, I want to talk to you about this decision that I'm trying to make to go or stay. And then this is always a tough question. Any of y'all know, when you got homies or whatnot, and I was like, Jay, I want to bring a camera just to capture it for myself. Just so years from now, when I'm thinking about what decision I made, I want to be able to rewatch it. So Jay said, cool. Me and my brother went over to the studio, had Bob, my camera guy, come over there. We was there for 4 or 5 hours, talked it through. Then I went and had lunch with Iger. And asked him if I could bring, because I really just wanted feedback from people. I talked to some of my family members, and I was filming it. So what actually happened is Bob, my shooter, right? Bob actually put together a little sizzle, right? Just a little sizzle, just for whatever. I sent it over to Jay, right? Jay hits me back and was like, this dope, you gonna put it out? I was like, hold up. This ain't private? Because you never know how people want to be shown or something like that, especially somebody with that profile. Same thing with Iger, and they said, absolutely, go ahead. So our first project that we did was Chapter 3. We started our company, we went to the different networks and sold it, and this was the first opportunity that I didn't have to worry about what somebody was saying on Twitter. I didn't have to worry about what somebody was saying on Instagram. They could go on TV and say whatever they wanted to, but guess what? I got a chance to tell my own story. And so that, I think, is what has driven athletes and everyone to be able to control their own narrative, right? You can make up whatever, and that's how, you've been in it, how media changed, right? Anytime a guy announces that he's going to a new team now, usually they're doing it on their own platform. And so that's what started it for me and made me want to be able to tell my own story.
And for those out there listening, when he referred to Iger, he meant Bob Iger, as in the chairman of Disney. Not a bad person to have.
And the other thing too, Jemele, I'll tell you, is what's wild is the different leagues, right? NBA, the NBA, of course, amazing. Wouldn't be here without the opportunity. But they have NBA entertainment, right? NBA entertainment. So every time you go anywhere, I mean, I'm telling you, All-Star Weekend, USA team, all this different type stuff, they got cameras everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's cameras, right? They own all that footage, right? They own all that footage. So in order to do things a lot of times, you got to go ask them, right? So this was about being able to control your own narrative.
A lot of people, of course, I mean, how many of you guys saw The Last Dance, Michael Jordan's documentary, right? Yep. It's one of the greatest sports documentaries we've seen, but part of the reason it did so well is because Jordan had his own footage.
Yep.
He had things that we had not seen before. And so that was smart of you to take that footage of your process and in terms of how you made that decision. You know, you said you pitched that to different, networks and, to get it out there. So when you're in these pitch meetings, how do you present yourself? Because everybody knows who you are as an athlete, but how do you get them to see you as a serious content maker?
That's a really good question. Fortunately, I have an amazing team around me, right? And that's the thing that I've learned in sport is that you can't do everything. Right? Luckily, I've been on a team sport. I don't play tennis. I don't play golf professionally and none of that. But I just try to show up as me, as authentic and myself, right? So on these calls, I give my point of view, my experience, because even though I've been in the NBA for the last 20 years, I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, right? I'm as regular or normal as they come. I have definitely a very abnormal job, but I am, I always say whenever I leave the arena, I don't get in the car and drive around with my jersey on. I get pulled over by the police just like anybody else. I'm a black man, right, in America who I have two children. I have a beautiful black wife. My children are 16 and 12, and I see the world through the lens that I did my first 19, 20 years when I went to middle school, high school, 2 years in college, and then been in the NBA. So I have a lot of different stories that I would also like to tell because it's a lot of funny shit that go on in my life too. Seriously, like I have kids. That show Blackish, right? Like I thought one day my son was gonna ask for a bro mitzvah, straight up. You know what I'm saying? Like being out there in LA, like you see a lot of different things, and I'm grateful that I'm grounded around my family that we can see abnormal stuff and we laugh about it. We joke and laugh about it.
How has being in the profession of basketball and the training and the discipline that it requires to be a professional, how have those skills transferred into how you run this production company?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the details, everything. I'm a firm believer in this quote that says, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So this morning, I was at the gym working out at 6 a.m., right? And I just really believe in that keep stacking days. Keep stacking days. Stay true to who you are, especially with our company, OHh Dipp, right? We don't just go out looking for stories because of the economics, right? We really want to storytell. We really want to make sure people's voices are being heard. And when you do that, I think it makes it fun. It makes it really fun, and you can be proud of what you're doing and what you're building.
You're known as being one of the most competitive people to ever play in the NBA. So how do you channel that competitiveness when it comes to your, content creation, your film and TV production work?
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's very competitive. There's a lot of production companies that want to do this and want to do that. I won't dive into one. I mean, it gets really tricky out there at times, right? Because relationship building matters. But depending on what project it is, where you're taking it, what pitch you're having, I think one of the things that I learned when I first got to LA, and I tell anybody this, and it taught me a real lesson. Got out to LA 2011, 2012, 13, something like that. CJ, we went over there and pitched that show to ABC. I'm just now getting into LA. We pitched the show to ABC, and then next thing you know, Variety posted it on Instagram or something like that we might be getting this show. And so think about it, I'm playing basketball. I think the pitch went well, it done showed up on Instagram, and I got life going on and all this stuff, and then a bunch of time went by. I asked my brother, I said, yo, what's up with that show that we pitched and that they put up on Instagram? I learned in Hollywood it ain't nothing until it get greenlit. Till it get greenlit. That taught me real quick. Don't be announcing nothing, don't be posting nothing, don't do none of that until it's greenlit. That was a rude awakening for me, but I learned that real quick. Shut up. shut up talking about it, because then you're gonna look crazy when you go somewhere and people start asking you about, like, I seen that project you posted, where it's at? It's still where it is. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, you'd be surprised how much or how often it happens where they do green light stuff and then they pay you not to do it.
Yeah, see, all
That's
that.
a whole
Oh, I
nother
know,
story.
yeah, that too.
You know, you mentioned that, like, you wanted to tell certain stories and it not always be about the economics. So, you know, for you, how does a story register with you? Like, what makes you say, yes, I want to jump in and do this?
Man, that's a good question. I think I've done it from different aspects now. Obviously, with our production company, we get a chance to tell stories from the ground all the way up. I also entered a project called Origin on the investment side. Now, that was different, right? That's different because, of
Now,
course,
is that the Ava DuVernay?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
Origins, okay.
It's an amazing story, and you like, yes, I'm investing in it, and then you know, figuring out the financial aspects and all of that. But I think for me, what makes me want to lean into the story is the storytelling, right? How it's being told, who's telling it, where is it going to go, or whatnot. And like we said, everyone has a story from a different vantage point. And so I think once I hear it or see it along with my team, we sort of go from there.
So what did you learn about the industry and the business investing in Origins, like from that perspective? What did that teach you, that experience?
Man, it taught me about the process, right? The unbelievable process, the vision, the traveling, how things change. That's what really happens. Things change really quick in production and how it needs to shift, and you may have to invest a little bit more here. I tell you, it's crazy. I'm thinking about it. I played, you know, my first 6 years in the NBA, I played for the New Orleans Hornets. My rookie year, though, Hurricane Katrina happened a month after I got drafted. So I played my first 2 years in Oklahoma City. Then I went back to New Orleans, and this is what I learned as a young kid, too. I didn't realize they shot a lot of movies in New Orleans, right? When I was 20-something years old, I was like, why they shoot movies here in New Orleans? And then I heard because of the tax breaks and all that. So any of y'all remember a movie called Hurricane Season? Yeah, so Hurricane Season, which Tim Story shot, I used to get out of practice, and me and my brother would go sit over there on the set. We would just go sit over there on the set and watch and see how they made the movie. Wayne was in the movie. I think Bow Wow was in it. Who was the coach? Forrest Whitaker was the coach. Taraji was in it. And I would just go over there every day and sit and watch them make that movie. And so all of that has always stuck with me. And so there was a guy who was like the director of the basketball being played in it, right? You know, anytime that there's a commercial or something, there's somebody there to direct and make sure that the basketball looks like basketball. Some of these shows, it don't look like basketball. Some of it don't look like football. You know what I mean? What's crazy is the guy who was directing then for the basketball in that movie, his daughter and my daughter play on the same basketball team now in LA. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's crazy how it comes around full circle. But at that time in my life, I was just going to hang out with Wayne and Bow Wow them, but not realizing the whole time that someday I would have my own production company.
Well, so far, you guys have been able to make some great content, but what have been some of the challenges that you faced as you tried to build this company up?
Some of the challenges is obviously sometimes there are really important stories that you're really passionate about, and you have to understand that everyone is just not going to be as passionate as you are, right? Like, that is real. Like, some stuff, you know, you telling people, man, they will love this or whatnot, but they may not, right? So I feel like we made some very meaningful projects already. Not one is more important than the other because every story is different. I think probably one of the most challenging that we would love to tell, or I know I would love to tell, is a story called 61, right? And that's a story that's very meaningful to me, and it's about my late grandfather who was murdered when I was 17 years old. And what's amazing about it is we have a script, we have a writer. We went through the whole process with, I can say it, with Disney, went down the road with him, everything like that. I was so excited or whatnot, and it was like this, supposed to be greenlit or whatnot, and it didn't happen, right? And I wrote a book, actually wrote a book, 61 Lessons from Grandpa. My grandfather had the first black-owned service station in North Carolina. So I grew up working at a service station. Anytime I wanted Jordans, kicks, anything like that, my granddaddy, he used to walk around with a big wad of money in his back pocket. Papa had a bankroll, right? Right? But like, anytime I wanted something, he wouldn't just give it to me. He'd make me and my brother come work. He'd make us come work. And I always say that taught me so much because as a kid, you think, like now as an adult, when you hear someone own something, you think that everybody else works for them, right? My grandfather owned this service station, and it was a Chevron, and every time you answered the phone, you had to say Jones Chevron. Jones Chevron. The phone number was 723-2232. That's crazy, I still remember that. Yeah, but that's where I worked at during the summer, right, with my grandfather. And so I wrote a book about, of course, losing him, but all the life lessons. And my grandfather, I signed my letter of intent to go to Wake Forest November 14th, 2002. The very next day, my grandfather was murdered by 5 teenagers. November 19th, 2002 was his funeral. And the very next day was the first game of my senior year. I scored 61 points in that game, right? I had 59, drove to the lane, shot a floater and got fouled. Had 61, went to the free throw line and threw the ball out of bounds. And I remember walking off and hugging my dad and my family. And it's the most meaningful game that I've ever played in. And yeah, I would love to tell that story about family, about perseverance, life. I remember I did Good Morning America after that. I was on there stuttering like crazy. But all those life lessons that I learned growing up in the South, being at church 4 or 5 days a week, you know what I'm saying? Like seriously, I was at church all day, all day. But those stories, if not for that, I'm not who I am.
So what happened with Disney? It just kind of went away?
Yeah. Right. We need to figure out how we're going to revive it. Right, we got to figure something out.
Well, I think everybody in this room just heard a heck of a pitch. So I'm sure.
Thank you.
If not Disney, it will be, someone else. You said that no project that you've done is more important than the other one. But I'm sure there had to be one or two, maybe even more than that, where you, after it was done, were like, I can't believe we actually pulled that off. So what among your many projects would you put in that category?
You're right. We did Blackball. We did the day sports stood still, and you guys remember the pandemic very vividly in here, huh? Yeah. So I was the president of the Players Association for 8 years, right? So that's meetings, all this different type stuff, and that was actually my game. It was an NBA game when, like, the pandemic stuff happened. We were playing against the Utah Jazz. Person ran across the court, stopped the game. And I'm going to tell you the way my mind worked, right? We were literally about to do the jump ball. A guy named Donnie Strack, who worked for the Thunder, came running to the court to the referees. And I'm tucking my jersey in, and what the hell going on, right? That was my initial reaction. And I started looking around because whenever I see somebody start panicking in a crowded arena, I'm looking for an active shooter. I thought somebody was.
What did Cedric the Entertainer say? Because we run.
Because we run.
We run.
Yeah, we ain't gonna talk about it.
Get up right now, run. We all
gone. Don't get moving. Jemele, I'm gonna tell you to kick your shoes off, and you better catch up.
Listen.
Your husband's somewhere. You better grab her, because I'm gone. I'm gone. Save yourself. But but that game, right? So I remember everything. So then they made us go back to the locker room, right? We had to take our uniform off, everything, because this is the beginning of COVID. Everybody don't know what all of this is. They made everybody on the team go back to their own, like, apartments or houses or whatnot. It's funny because Shay was a second-year player and Darius Baisley was rookies. Because I had a chef, they came to my house. So they broke the rules to begin with. But as we got back to my house, my producing hat immediately went on, right? I started filming things, right? I remember the flight that it took me 6 days to finally get a plane that would take me back to be with my family. While I'm sitting in the car, I'm videoing, I'm filming, I'm capturing all this content because I immediately started thinking this would be a great story to tell. And sure enough, we made a film called The Day Sports Stood Still. So that was very meaningful, along with the projects that we did, Why Not Us, which was highlighting HBCUs and being able to tell their stories. We told a story about North Carolina Central University and how their team is always one of the best teams every single year as an HBCU, and they only have 2 goals, right? So they practice where they play. You know, you go into any of these facilities now, is basketball goals on the wall. They got eight baskets so guys can practice free throws. They got 2 baskets and they make it work.
So since you clearly have established a pattern of recognizing a good story and starting to shoot your own footage, are you doing that in terms of your own career? Because when you think about when it is over, are we capturing ourselves, especially with this maybe being your last season?
Yes, I would like to, right? If I play another year, and that's the hardest thing for me, right? I've done that when I did Chapter 3, but everybody around me, they always saying, I'd be like, man, I don't want them cameras around me. But I also see the bigger picture, right? Because there's a lot of things where guys see the games, right? They don't see us going to pick up our kids from school. They don't see us right there doing homework with them. They don't see the heartache and the pain from calling granny or the voice notes of not getting a chance to see your family, not getting a chance to see your friends, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I love what I do. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm not complaining, but there is a human aspect to it, and that's why the mental health that a lot of guys talk about, I tell you, as much as I love to play basketball, this past season was extremely tough for me on my mental because I go play a game, right, a very highly competitive game for 2.5 hours, and I would go home to an empty house. And a lot of people, I'll tell you this, because I didn't heard it, they say, oh, well, you tripping. That's your fault, because you should have just flew your kids and your wife them out there to live with you or whatnot. But my kids have been to 6 different schools in 6 consecutive years, right? So thankfully, my parents, me and my brother, we had the same friends growing up. We still got a group chat with our homies that we grew up with, right? We go on a trip once a year with the homies that I grew up with. And so I wanted my kids to have some sense of normalcy, right? And that is why they stay where they are now. And if it's got to be hard on anybody, I don't want it hard on them. I'd rather the hard be on me.
I know that when you're still playing, it's often difficult to think about your legacy and to reflect because you're still very much in that mode. But nevertheless, when you think about your career as a basketball player, even the things you've been able to do outside of it, like whenever that time comes when you do leave the game, how do you want people to remember you?
Man, that's a really good question too, because I don't think about it that often actually, because I'm in it, right? I'm so in it that what I've learned is that some people gonna like you, some people not, right? And in the position that I've been in, I have always had to be okay with not being liked. It's a whole bunch of people that don't like me, and I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. One thing that I learned in being the president of the union, right? Because I was the president for 8 years, I was on the executive committee for 7 years, and that job is not paid or anything. You represent 450 of the most famous people in the world, right? That's the thing about our sport. We don't wear a helmet. So everywhere we go, everybody knows who we are, right? And guys have big voices and big platforms. one thing that I've learned about being the president, or if you're the CEO or the boss, or it's like somebody being the head coach, is that you don't get a chance to say, man, I should have did this, or you got to be a decision maker, right? You got to be a decision maker. So when we decided that we were going to go to the bubble, man, I wish y'all knew how many guys was talking so crazy to me. Talking so crazy.
Go ahead, share,
right?
share with the class, Chris. Tell us a story.
We'll do that storytelling at some point. But I've always said in that position as president of the PA, it wasn't CP3 LLC, right? I had to be the voice for all the guys that played in the league, right? A lot of the young guys, when the pandemic happened, they didn't see that coming, right? So if we don't go and try to do the social justice and all the stuff that we did in the bubble, it would have been a huge setback for them financially. Certain guys who may have got their mama home or something like that. And so you got a lot of the big money guys who like, man, we'll chill, we cool. But the league represents everybody, the middle class, the young guys, and the vets. So when I'm done, I hope that I just remembered that I competed, that I played hard. And then there was a shift in the mindset of the players. There was a huge shift in the mindset of the players in that the way we look at ownership, the way guys think about their mental health, their family, their finance. There have been so many jokes over the years about guys going broke, right? As soon as they see a professional athlete go broke, everybody be like, man, how the hell he blow 30 million? But it's easier than you think, especially in our communities where a lot of times we don't talk about money and we don't talk about finance. And so, yeah, I think that's a big thing. I hope that guys continue to lean on each other and talk to each other because it's really hard. You're set up and you're built up your whole life, and then it just sort of stops.
Speaking of the bubble, there was obviously a moment where the players took a pause and didn't play after Jacob Blake, what happened with him being shot by police. How close were you all to not resuming the season?
Very close. And man, you just taking me all the way back there.
I feel like I traumatized you all over again by asking you this.
It was some of the toughest things, right? Like I remember being on the bus and my phone rang and it was Damian Lillard. Like we were on the bus headed to our game against the Houston Rockets, right? And Shea turned around and said, yo, see, Milwaukee ain't come out. And then I went into, I'm not now a player getting ready for a game. My phone rung and it's Damian Lillard. He's, yo, see what we doing? Bron called, Adam Silver called, right? So now I got to figure out and navigate what we're going to do. We canceled that game. Now I had to call the lady that was running the property for us and get 100 and something chairs put in a ballroom so that we can meet and talk about what we're going to do. Then I actually got on the phone with Jacob Blake's dad, who was going to address all of the players before we had this big meeting, which ironically enough, Jacob Blake's dad had spent time in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and knew my grandfather's service station, which was wild. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff and a lot of stories that for a lot of years, I just been hooping and playing, and I know a lot, but don't tell a lot. But I think some of these stories need to be told. Obviously, the situation with Kobe and me going to the Lakers, right? There's a lot of people who say what happened or what they think knew. I lived it, so I think I know a little bit better than some of these other people. Yeah.
Are the conspiracy theorists right on that one, or?
Which one?
Okay, so it was, well, I don't know. I mean, this was somewhat reported that Dan Gilbert had a lot to do with why that trade didn't happen. The forces that other owners basically shut that down because they didn't want to see the Lakers, you and LeBron join, and thus another super team. They wanted to shut down player empowerment, period, by sending the message that, no, y'all don't get to orchestrate where y'all go.
Yeah, that was part of it. I was on the executive committee, so we had just came out of the CBA negotiations, but obviously me and Kobe got on the phone, right? Like we thought it was happening, and one day I'll talk about the conversations we had. Okay,
all right. But yes, that was, I can't wait till that story is told. I can't wait till that documentary comes out about why you didn't wind up playing with him. So nevertheless, as we talked about the trend of athletes sort of jumping into this arena of film and TV work, What would you say to those athletes who want to do what you have been able to do?
Yeah, I would say, first and foremost, I don't think everyone has to start their own production company, right? I think that guys also need to be comfortable with doing things together, like collaborate. I think sometimes there's a Me Too thing where this guy like, oh, he doing that, I can do it too. Where sometimes you're stronger together. And the way we've been sort of portrayed all this time, like I say this all the time, if you pick up the TV, if you pick up the remote and turn the TV on, sometimes it's not even gonna say Oklahoma City versus Indiana Pacers. It's gonna say Shea versus Halliburton, right? So I don't care who you are, that's sort of kind of programming. So it almost makes you always be like, it's me against him, it's me against him, it's me against him, instead of really understanding that you can collaborate on certain things. And tell the stories that you want to tell. Don't let somebody else tell you what you want to do, right? Like I said, I'm a consumer, right? I also want to tell stories of black families, right? Any of y'all in here watched Forever?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, Maura, who did that, she unbelievable. I don't know if she here, but shout out to you. Listen, but what's amazing about that, right, is I have a bunch of shows that I watch when I'm on the road by myself, right? Like Beauty and Black was not one to watch with my kids, right? Any of y'all see that?
I saw some of it, yes.
It was wild. Yeah,
Yes.
but like I said, I watch everything. And so it was so dope for me to get a chance to watch Forever with my kids, right? To actually have a show. It's only a few shows I've ever been able to, and I'm not saying like YA, but I'm just saying like shows to watch with your kids. And we watched that show, and I'm still at that point too where the little sex scenes, I'm looking over at my daughter. Now that gets you uncomfortable as a parent, right? Because my daughter looked down at her phone, act like she ain't looking. I'm like, woman, girl, you see the TV. You see the TV. But it was so dope to watch because in these shows, if y'all seen it, you see the living rooms, right? You see the black art showing up, right? So just like A Different World in these shows, the Cosby Show when you was growing up or whatnot, I think it's really dope that the black art and the culture is being integrated into these TV shows. So I want to continue to elevate and do that because I'll tell y'all, because Jeff, your kids go to Campbell Hall. So in that show, which was crazy to me, I didn't realize it, one of the kids went to Camden Hall, right? That was the school he went to. My kids go to Campbell Hall, right? The school that they was playing against was something Wood. Was it? I don't know. It was Brookwood. The school out there is Brentwood. You know what I mean? So the connectivity, and I think that's really important for kids, is to be able to see themselves, right? If kids can see themselves in some of these shows or whatnot, that's what we all do as humans. We try to see how we relate to these characters, and I enjoy that part of it.
And in episode 4, you might hear a familiar voice.
Oh,
I
did? Yeah.
Forever,
Yes.
which was phenomenal. I mean, Judy Blume is one of the greatest authors ever, and so to see that being done in that way was incredible, truly exceptional work. Before we wrap up our conversation, since you mentioned that you watched The Wire, I think The Wire is the greatest television drama ever made.
Same.
Debate your auntie. So you have to give me what is your order in terms of best seasons of The Wire. So for me, it is 3, 4, 1, 2, 5.
Damn, you know it.
Yeah,
listen, let me tell you, you know what's interesting is when I watched The Wire, people try to tell me that I didn't need to watch the season at the docks.
No,
y'all ever heard that?
they are wrong.
People be saying that you don't have to watch that. Yes, you do.
Yes,
you do.
It ties everything together. It's the bridge season.
It ties everything together. And for me, right, like anytime I'm somewhere in whatever city it is, like when I go to Baltimore and whatever, and I see all of the shipping containers or whatnot, I think about The Wire. If I'm out in LA and I ride out to Long Beach, that's how, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'll be like, man, what they got in them? I'll be like, what they got? But all that comes from watching those shows.
Yeah. So which one was your favorite season?
Oh, man, I don't know. I'd say probably the docs then. I like the doc season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not season 4 with the kids.
Man, I don't remember it all like that.
Oh,
But I'll tell you
Chris,
this.
you gotta watch it every year.
I mean, that's, well, I like it enough that my Uber, I can say, my Uber alias is Avon Barksdale. They pull up, they be like, Avon? Avon, that's my alias in Uber.
Okay, now all the Uber drivers know.
Yeah, I might have to switch it up, string a bell or something.
All right.